Good day. November 17th was rich in rumors, insiders and opinions. Opinion. Ukraine is highly dependent on supplies and funding from the West. If they decrease, then the war can go very quickly differently. It also depends on the ability of its economy to generate income and function, and the Ukrainian economy is in a knockout, which requires a lot of money to maintain it. Thirdly, the consolidation and resources of society. Ukraine is now squeezing out at maximum speed, and Russia has only used 10% of its potential. Here the problem is whether the Kremlin can also skillfully consolidate its society into a military case, as Ukraine did with the help of patriotism. Giving forecasts now is very disastrous. It's like shooting into the air, since everything depends on many accompanying factors. The main thing is whether Russian society is ready to sacrifice everything for the sake of the victory, or is it ready for capitulation and shame, but with the preservation of its world existence, as a country without geopolitical interests and influence. Rumors. For the office of the president, the implementation of the #Sullivan_formula is equal to the death sentence for Zelensky, but the compromising evidence from the CIA chief turned out to be much more significant. On Bankova, as always, they decided to go between the drops and deceive everyone, and first of all the Ukrainians and our military, who were promised no negotiations. Inside. The source said that the Biden administration demanded that the office of the president resume the negotiation process with the Kremlin. Bankova received the main drafts of the #Sullivan_formula 2 weeks ago and should make her proposals. The director of the CIA did not come to Kyiv in vain. He handed Zelensky daddy with all the offshore accounts of the functionaries of the office of the president and demanded to stop playing with Washington. William Burns warned Andrei Yermak that all data on the corruption schemes of the big construction site, the theft of humanitarian cargo, the development of Western aid will be transferred to Naboo and independent journalists. After the arrival in Kyiv of the head of the CIA, Burns, the categoricalness of the president disappeared. Negotiations after the withdrawal of all Russian troops, and there will be no Minsk III changed in just a day too. I proposed a public form of negotiations. The United States needs to fulfill its part of the deal with the Russian Federation. Therefore, one hint to Zelensky about a possible reduction in funding or arms supplies is enough for him to change his mind. It is personally humiliating enough for Zelensky to contradict himself and make contrary statements. However, this serves as public proof for the Kremlin that Vladimir Alexandrovich is under the control of the White House and will fulfill their part of the obligations for the United States. Rumors. The source reports that the office of the president wants to convince Western partners to accuse Belarus of shelling Poland with S-300 missiles. Allegedly, this is a Russian provocation aimed at discrediting Ukraine. But one problem, the S-300 missile could not reach that point in Poland. Specifications do not allow. Zelensky urgently wants to put out the discontent of the Poles against Ukraine. Some Polish officials have already begun to accuse Ukraine of provocation, with an attempt to draw Poland into a war with Russia. Backstage rumors. There were rumors on the sidelines that the office of the president was determined to deny in every possible way that the rockets that fell in Poland were Ukrainian. The office of the president knows that by not acknowledging this fact, you do not take responsibility. Therefore, they will deny it in every possible way. Even if you need to argue with Western partners, putting them in an uncomfortable position. Inside. The source said that the technologists of the office of the president came up with the same trick with the Kremlin as with Poroshenko in 2019. The debate, the stadium is the stadium. The compromising information on the functionaries of the office of the president turned out to be so serious that Zelensky had to change his position on negotiations with the Kremlin, and now we are ready to return to the negotiation process to discuss the #Sullivan_formula, but on the terms of public negotiations. Most experts, politicians, diplomats did not understand what the essence of such a format is, and the trick is that there will be no negotiations themselves, there will be their imitation and a show for the whole world. Bankova modeled the strengths of Zelensky and developed a format in which Ukraine uses emotionally manipulative technologies, and the debate will strengthen the position. Negotiations should be one-on-one between Zelensky and Putin, and in an online format. Backstage rumors. There were rumors on the sidelines that a bureaucratic fall was brewing in the government's economic sector. Officials are going to leave, as a global crisis in the economy and the financial sector is brewing. Many are already calling the Ukrainian economic situation an inflated bubble, which was inflated by the issuance of the hryvnia. When it bursts, the hryvnia exchange rate will fly into space. Rumors. The source reports that Western expert communities have begun to record an increase in the production of the latest military equipment by Russia and its supply for participation in the Ukrainian military campaign. Updating the military fleet of the Russian armed forces will take approximately 6 to 8 months, and by the summer of 2023, the Russians will have 50% of the latest tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, helicopters, electronic warfare systems and stations with a swarm of UAVs in the Ukrainian direction. This will make life difficult for the armed forces of Ukraine and will require an increase in Western military assistance to Ukraine. It will also serve for a large-scale summer military campaign. Rumors. Biden refused to communicate with Zelensky, and NATO withdrew from the situation with the shelling of Poland, while declaring that the missile belongs to the armed forces of Ukraine. The source says that this is the first time that Zelensky was not just denied a telephone conversation with Biden, but was not even given anyone in return. Usually the Americans always gave an alternative in return. Very often, Blinken held such telephone conversations with Ukrainian representatives, but this time they simply refused, which many perceived as irritation of the Biden administration in relation to the antics of Zelensky and his entourage. See you soon.